To order the January 24th, 2019 Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals meeting at 7 o'clock. Jen, would you please call roll?
Chairman Dash.
Here.
Commissioner Kempa.
Here.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Here.
Commissioner Tamman.
Here.
Commissioner Patel.
Here.
Commissioner Mellon.
Here.
Commissioner Sayward. Here. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Okay, so our first item of business this evening is consideration of the November 15th, 2018 PZBA meeting minutes. Are there any comments, changes, or corrections to the minutes as presented this evening? Okay, then if no changes, do I have a motion to approve the November 15th, 2018 PZBA minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Jen, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kempa.
Aye.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Aye.
Commissioner Tamman.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Here.
Commissioner Mellon.
Aye.
Commissioner Sayward.
Aye.
And Chairman Dash.
Aye. Okay, so there are no items of old business this evening, so we will start with our first new business case. So we have PZBA zoning public hearing, case number ZBA 19-01 TA/SU. The applicant is Way to Go Limousine Incorporated, represented this evening by Rizal. I will not pronounce that correctly, I apologize. Rafagat. And the address of the limousine business is at 1326 North Rand Road in Arlington Heights, 60004. In the applicant this evening, there are two requests. The first request is seeking a text amendment to add the definition of livery services to section 5-2-3 and to create livery services as a permitted special use in the B3 Commercial, Wholesale, and General Services District, section 5-7-5C of the City of Prospect Heights zoning code. And the second item that the applicant is seeking is for a special use request to allow livery services at the property commonly known as 1326 North Rand Road in Arlington Heights, which is in the city's B3 General Services District per section 5-7-5C of the City of Prospect Heights zoning code. It's a lot of talking. So I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. So I would like, please, a motion to open the public hearing on application number ZBA 19-01 TA/SU.
So moved.
Second? Okay, a voice vote, please. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so anyone who would be testifying this evening or presenting or speaking to this in the public, if you want to stand up, I can swear in.
Guys in the back.
Yeah, just for this case here, we'll do this 3 times tonight. So do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. So then when you do come forward to speak this evening, you just need to state your name and address for the record. Okay, so Director Peterson, your comments, please.
The PZBA should be very familiar with this property. Back in November, or end of October, the PZBA recommended approval of automobile storage special use for the owner of the property, Joe Everhart at Village Cycle. When it was presented at City Council, there was some discussion, and Alderman Ludwigson expressed concern about it. He was in favor of the livery service and having a set business utilize the parking spot, not just general vehicle storage. So he made a motion to table the application on the special use permit for Mr. Everhart and requested that if they wanted to go forward, that Way to Go Limousine should seek special use for the limousine service and storage. If that was recommended for approval, then the council would consider that at a future meeting, at which time, upon approval, Mr. Everhart would withdraw his original application. If for any reason that the recommendation of the livery services does not go forward, Mr. Everhart does reserve his right to proceed on the existing recommendation. So that brings us back here. Mr. Raffagat applied for a text amendment, which is before us this evening. The action is to add a definition for livery services because the city did not have one. Even though in our licensing code, we do have a licensing requirement for livery drivers, taxi cab drivers and such in town, but we do not have a land use category for that particular use. So we're proposing a definition to be added to the definition section, and then in 5.7-5C, we will be adding the category livery services. So, and then if that moves forward, we would then be hearing the case to approve, or to recommend approval of the livery use at the subject property to recommend on. The applicant is here to provide additional testimony and answer any questions.
Great. So if you'd like to come forward and present, please.
Oh, my name is Faisal Rafaqat, and it's a veritable limousine.
Okay.
And Joe Everhart, Village Cycle Sport, 1326 North Rand Road.
Go ahead and explain a little bit more how you plan to use how many vehicles.
The vehicles would be parked all the way in the back of the lot. The lot's 350 feet deep. It'd be the back 60 feet of the lot. And they would be across the back, just straight in and straight out, all the way across the back of the lot.
And you're currently parking there now, correct?
Yes.
Great.
Same setup that's there.
Obviously, we're familiar with this case, right? So what I would say, is there anyone here from the public this evening that came to speak to this case? No. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and ask the commissioners if they have any questions. So if you can stay up here.
Are these bus limos, regular limos? Are these like cars, extended cars, are they full?
These are extended cars,
Extended cars?
Trolleys.
trolleys and SUV stretch.
Okay.
Yep.
So what will be the address of your business? Is it the same as the cycle center?
Yes, it would be the same address, 1326 North Rand Road.
Okay.
It looks like you're proposing to double park the limos. And what do you have to do to get the limo out that's closest to the back property line on?
You'd have to move the one in front of it and then turn it around. And that circle there the drawing was drawn by someone who lays out parking lots and the circle represents big enough for a fire truck to turn around or a large vehicle.
So right now you have a storage trailer also back there? Is that located in the parking spaces or in that?
It probably right now is behind the building, but it will be moved to the property line, so it wouldn't affect that circle. It would be out of that circle. Just waiting for the car wash to start next door and put up a fence or some type of dividing line there.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners?
I got a question for Director Peterson. Will this, say they sell the property, does this go with this property, or is this just for this business that's actually the applicant for this text amendment?
The way the text amendment will stay for the land, but the special use approval will be with the owner and this applicant. Okay? What this special use text amendment would do is other B3s would also be eligible to come back and ask for this. So we're creating the text so any B3s could be eligible in the future, and then special use would be specific to this address and this applicant.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Just a couple other comments. I'm glad to see the direction that this went. I think this is a much better approach to the way to handle the parking in the back instead of calling it the automobile, general automobile store. So I'm glad to see that this actually came back to us. I would, and I'm in favor of it, I would just like to put 2 conditions on it, and my reasoning being, you're required to do the 34 or 36 parking spaces, but I think until you move that trailer, the storage trailer, I think you don't have the 36. I'd like to make the condition that you're still going to be providing the required 36 spaces, and then also that that the applicant works with the staff to make sure that you verify compliance with the parking lot standards. You know, if staff is okay with the double parking, or if you need additional lighting, or if they're going to waive the condition of putting the bumpers in, you know, I think that's something you can work out with staff, but I would just like to make sure that the condition is there, that the design meets the staff's approval and the city engineers.
So I guess related to the proposed conditions, Dan, the requirement to have the 36 parking spaces, that is for the village cycle and sport use, correct?
Correct.
And, I mean, the owner could park a trailer in one of those parking spots, right? I mean, just, or is it, or does that have to be removed to?
The way the current trailer is, because it is basically a shipping container that has been placed to help with additional storage, is in a spot that does not obstruct the parking right now. And with the back spots, he has in excess, or excessive amounts of parking. When he moves it, he still has to maintain his 36 spaces, and then any surplus of that could be used by the limousine service for their fleet. So I think if I understand Commissioner Sayward's position, as long as the primary use is compliant, then you're satisfied, and the limo could use the
Right.
remainder.
The site plan is a little bit deceiving because it doesn't show the storage container there. It shows the parking spaces, which are obstructed
and then
right now.
It is kind of where the circle is, but if the circle was moved back, then,
Joe, don't get hung up on the circle. The circle's just to demonstrate that
Right,
that aisle
that the
way has
turnaround.
enough turn
but
radius.
it wouldn't obstruct the turnaround.
Are you
And-
satisfied with that condition, the guaranteeing that 36, and then,
Yeah, the limos don't necessarily take up 100 feet wide, so if there was parking, you know, still along the side there, you know, it really wouldn't get used, but it would be there.
So when the container is relocated, you don't feel that you'll have a problem providing 36 parking spots?
No, I
Okay.
think I can still get the 36 spots there.
Because I drive by it quite frequently, but I mean, on a busy weekend, I mean, how many of those parking spots are you normally using?
You know, maybe 8 to 10,
Right, so I,
you know, and then maybe another 5 for employees.
okay, because I say, if you don't think you can
On a
comply,
busy day.
now would be the time to let us know.
Mhm.
Hopefully
So-
more people are riding their bikes.
So, I mean, I guess since municipal code requires the parking spots, I mean, do we have to approve it with a condition?
I think, if Commissioner Sayward, correct me if I'm wrong, you just want to make sure for the record that he fully understands and everybody understands that we have to meet compliance for the primary use.
Right, because the site plan is a little bit deceiving, and it doesn't show that those spaces are obstructed. Your site plan shows that you have parking spaces where you don't really have them.
So you agree that we should approve it with the condition?
That he complies, and then we see, because there's a lot of moving parts with this, because we will have construction of the neighboring car wash facility that was approved late last year, and that will kind of rearrange, and then we can work with him to ensure compliance, and then that any surplus then may be the same, may be reduced, may be increased, as long as he meets his 36 spaces. You're good with that? Okay.
Then in regards to meeting the proposed condition to meet the parking lot standards, again, is it warranted as a condition, or is it they already obligated to meet the parking lot standards?
How I would approach this is that upon the final configuration, a parking lot plan be submitted to the city, showing, verifying that this is there.
Like an as-built?
Yep, like an as-built.
Okay. But Commissioner Saywart was concerned, I think, about other parking lot standards in regards to lighting or other items.
So our parking lot standards are pretty black and white in the code, and there's some that aren't being shown. Lighting and the fact that it's double parked, and the fact that it's, there aren't the bumpers, and you're supposed to be driving out into an aisle. So I think the use, the fact that it's just the limos, there's not, maybe there's some negotiation with staff that you can justify the fact that you don't need the lighting, for instance, if security isn't an issue for you, or then I think you need to make that case. But I think between staff and the city engineer, you should have that conversation.
So the condition would be that the applicant continues to work with staff to make sure the parking lot standards are to the city's satisfaction.
And I also believe that we had a condition with the automobile storage that if an issue came up, lighting would be provided. If I remember correctly, we did have this
There is lighting
discussion.
around the building now, and the car wash will have lighting, and, I don't think the residents behind that would want bright lights in the back of the lot.
So
But, it is lit now.
And I think the testimony also dictated that we had no police calls, we had no crime or theft there, so that we were gonna address those in a period in the future to see if it warranted additional light.
Right. And I've always been agreeable to cooperating with the city on those type of things.
Okay. All right, then, I think we should proceed, and I would like to request, please, a motion to close the public hearing on application number ZBA 19-01TA/SU.
I'll make that motion.
Second it?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'd like to make a motion, please, to receive into the public record the staff review of compliance of this application with the zoning standards as presented by staff this evening, and to make these standards a part of the official record for the application.
So moved.
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and there was no additional information this evening to include into evidence. So then we will, there'll be two motions this evening for approval, so we'll start with the first. I'd like a motion, please, to recommend to the city council that we approve a text amendment to add the definition of livery services to section 5-2-3, and to create livery services as a permitted special use in the B3 Commercial, Wholesale, and General Services District, section 5-7-5C of the City of Prospect Heights zoning code.
So moved. Second.
Jen, if you'd please call roll.
Commissioner Kempa.
Aye.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Aye.
Commissioner Tamman.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon.
Aye.
Commissioner Sayward.
Aye.
Chairman Dash.
Aye. Okay, so the second item, as part of the application this evening, I would like a motion, please, to recommend that the city council approve a special use request to allow livery services at the property commonly known as 1326 North Rand Road in Arlington Heights in the city's B3 General Services District per section 5-7-5, 5-7-5C of the City of Prospect Heights zoning code with the following conditions. The first being that the applicant meet the required parking spaces identified this evening as 36. And the second condition would be that the applicant continue to work with city staff in regards to meeting the parking lot standards per the city code. And I'd also like to add as part of the first condition that the applicant will submit an as-built parking plan to confirm that those parking space requirements have been met. So a motion, please, to approve that request with the stated conditions.
Also a move?
Second?
Jen, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kempa.
Aye.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Aye.
Commissioner Tamman.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon.
Aye.
Commissioner Sayward.
Aye.
And Chairman Dash.
Aye. Okay, so next steps, Dan?
Next up, this will be prepared and to city council. Let me get my dates out here. City council meeting will be February 11th.
Great. I will thank you for
Okay,
coming in
great.
this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, just be advised that when this goes, you'll have to formally then withdraw your other application when this goes forward. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our second item of new business. That would be PZBA Public Case Hearing Number ZBA 19-02SU, and the applicant is Robert Kirk, addressed at 33 East Palatine Road, Prospect Heights, Illinois, 60070. And this evening, the applicant is seeking consideration of an application to allow a parking lot and decks, municipal or private, in the B4 Office Industrial District, Section 5-7-6C of the City of Prospect Heights zoning code for semi-truck parking.
And that should, it should read it, forgive me, special use application.
Okay, so it'd be a special use application. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'd like a motion, please, to open the public hearing on application number ZBA 19-02SU.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so anyone presenting or speaking this evening? Just one? Okay, then, do you swear this evening that the testimony you will be giving will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Okay, so then when you come up, you just state your name and address for the record. Director Peterson?
This is a case to clean up a use that's been in existence for some time. This past summer, on a Freedom of Information request for an adjoining property, it was discovered that the truck leasing of the vacant land that the owner of the property is leasing from Chicago Executive Airport for semi-truck parking did not receive the special use approval at that point in time. So the applicant's firm Sterry Trucking has been using this property for truck parking for almost 4 years, if not a little longer. And this is to clean up that situation. Mr. Kirk is representing Sterry Trucking and has submitted some plans tonight in front of you. There was a new exhibit that was, and I'll clear this out here in a second. There was a new exhibit that was presented, because after the termination, there is no parking lot lighting as shown in the original Exhibit 5. But that, all the lighting is attached to the building. So there's a new facility site plan that shows the current condition that also addresses the questions that staff had about lighting considerations, that there's no photometrics, there's no pole heights in that situation. So those comments on the staff report no longer apply. And the lighting shown is that, which is already on the adjacent building.
Okay, so staff is now satisfied with the parking lot lighting.
I would say there may still be some comment on lighting or questions on lighting, but there's no necessity for any variations or that for new pole lighting at this time.
Okay. And then also as an update, I guess, to the original staff report we received, I'm under the impression now that the proposed parking lot will meet the city standards?
Staff has met with Mr. Kirk, the city engineer, and I to discuss moving forward, and the applicant, if the base conditions out there are satisfactory, we'll be putting a appropriate lift on there of asphalt. And so therefore, we're going to confirm that the base is compliant, so that then it's just a matter of the applicant putting actual asphalt over for dust control, and thickness is what our discussion was at that time.
Okay, so now that those two items have been updated since your initial report was issued, then then there's a positive recommendation from staff to approve this?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so then let's go ahead and hear from Mr. Kirk.
Thank you. Good evening. The site is zoned B4, and we're asking for a special use. We have been leasing this for just about 4 years. We were notified about a year and a half by Steve Skieber that it may not be zoned with the special use. And we started the procedure to go for the special use. Steve since then left, and so there was a change of directorship. So we want to comply now with the requirements. We do not own the land. The land is owned by the airport. But we've been operating there for almost 4 years. And during those years, the truck parking use, the property has been maintained in a very clean and organized manner. There have been no police reports or illegal activities on the site for the last 3 to 4 years. There have been no vandalism, break-ins, or unlawful activity recorded. And also during that time, there have been no complaints filed by any residents adjacent or anyone in the neighborhood about the activities on site. The site is fully leased. There are 50 trucks that park there. And there's a 3-month waiting list, and it is considered one of the top parking facilities in the Northwest. I want to go through the adherence to the section 5-8-1, which is the general provisions to off-street parking ordinance, and how we maintain those items. There are 9 quick items that I want to go through. There is no sale or repair or servicing of any vehicle on the site. Number 2, the parking lot is graded for proper drainage. Number 3, the existing surfaces consist of poured concrete and ground asphalt. And again, we will satisfy the engineering department and the building department of Prospect Heights to meet whatever requirements we come to an agreement on. And I think the minimum would be to put a layer of 1.5 inches of asphalt on the base that's there. And we have started those conversations.
You can keep going, it's okay.
Okay.
We want to keep our fans at home waiting.
Can we put the site plan on, because there's,
I'm trying to get there, Rod, however, it's not advancing as I thought it was going to. I know it's, there we go. Oops, come on back here. Come on back here. No, I don't have it. It's not set up with the PowerPoint.
Oh, you have a presentation?
That's one, that one. Thank you. Thank you, Patrick.
What do you do?
No, okay. All right.
okay, here's the site plan, and I've got a pointer, I'm not sure, no, it's not strong enough.
This was the original one that shows in the center the two light poles, and you added a new exhibit that shows those not being there.
Right. A year and a half ago, we put in addition through permitting with ban, pretty much in the middle of that little recess, and the addition comes out about 20 feet from that. On that building, we put in two spotlights that spotlight the whole parking area. And that meets the requirements for, that's item number 6, which security lighting and cameras are in place and operational. I'm going to go back to number 4. So what we are proposing to do to be good neighbors is on the north and south ends, one on Palatine Road and the other on Piper Lane, we are going to be doing a 5-foot landscape buffer, and we are going to plant 7 trees, both in the south and the north, of evergreens and deciduous trees, 3-inch diameters. In addition, we're going to put in a 6-foot-high cedar fence, both on the south and the north, again, to act as a buffer. One of the things I want to point out is that there's no traffic onto Piper Lane. All the traffic goes through the frontage road on Palatine Road, so all the truck traffic is away from any residential or any influence to the south. Item number 6, all parking spaces have direct access to parking aisles. And number 7, truck bumpers for all spaces are in place. I'm responding to the 10 items that are in your ordinance for parking. And number 9, all provisions for the code are in approval, and we're not asking for any standards to be in any relief. That's it.
Any questions from the, actually, before we do that, is there anyone here this evening, other than Mr. Kirk, to speak to this matter? Okay, so since there's no public testimony this evening, I'll open it up to comments from the commissioners.
I got a comment for Director Peterson. When we start adding asphalt onto this existing parking lot, which we know they've been doing for the last 3 to 4 years, does MWRD have to get involved? I mean, we have semis and oil and possible spillage and all that, or what procedure that needs to be followed?
Engineer Baraz has looked at that, and because it's existing and they're not shoveling out and disturbing, they're on the same spot, he's gonna be working with MWRD on that. There's no EPA issues at this time, because they're not digging up to disturb anything, and have that looked at, is what I was told. A number of items in Mr. Baraz's letter to this deal requires that construction plans be submitted, showing what's there and the asphalt, because our code is pretty specific in the code about what type of base, how much base, the amount of coverage, and the position of the applicant is that there's concrete that makes up existing part of the base, there's grindings, there's others that have been working to support this, so if we put the surface on for dust control and dirt control, that it should be compliant, and the engineers agreed to work with him on that.
So is the engineer's opinion that 1.5 inch surface is thick enough?
The amount He was looking at an inch and a half, when we had discussions, an inch and a half of base and an inch and a half of final lift, so that was where we were at, but we were waiting to get a final plan from the applicant before issuing a permit.
And are these semi-trucks loaded or empty typically?
Some are loaded. Now, the history of the site is interesting. It was a concrete distribution plant, I think, for many years. And I know that they would lay down a lot of concrete. So I imagine there's at least 12, maybe 24 inches of base. We would, again, work with engineering to maybe go through a load test to make sure the sub-base is standard. I think it is. But there are some trucks that are loaded. I've seen storage of those big semis with cars on them. You know, those.
I'm more concerned,
beautiful.
and this is right, anytime I've worked with asphalt, if you have semi-truck loading, it's inch and a half surface is usually not acceptable. So
Exactly not. No.
I don't know
I'm
if an
saying
inch
the
and a half
base now
with
is,
old.
yeah, the
with,
base is at least 12 inches and
yeah.
it's solid, but.
So the base itself might be, I'm more worried about the surface itself, an inch and a half holding on a loaded truck.
We did not agree to that specifically. It would have to be a base layer, and then a final lift,
Mhm.
you know.
So as long as engineering is involved?
Yes.
Or some type of testing and stuff? right?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Another question, don't we have an 8-foot fence requirement for commercial?
When it abuts residential,
What about residential?
yes.
I think a solid fence in those two areas, the north and the south, is going to be helpful. Right now, it's just, a wire fence with barbed wire on top, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a big improvement in itself. The landscaping that you're showing, though, is actually outside your property line, correct? So is that in the public right-of-way, and who's going to maintain that? And
We will maintain it. Again, it's not, the property line isn't really well defined, but whoever owns the property, we will maintain it. It is, I think, owned by, I think the north is probably owned by IDOT, and the south is probably owned by the city. I'm not sure. But we're proposing that we fill in that buffer zone.
And I've talked with the director of public, or superintendent of public works, who is satisfied with the landscape improvements with the caveat that the applicant maintain that.
No problem.
One last question, the lighting you have shown on your building, it seems to be more to the north. Does that get to the south part of that lot?
It's,
Is that like that?
it's really well lit. If you want to, you can drive by and see, but
Okay.
it really serves its purpose, and it acts as a security lighting. It works extremely well.
The properties to the south of this lot are owned by the Chicago Executive Airport, and they're both vacant at this time.
Other comments or questions from the commissioners?
So where's the entrance and exit to this lot? Is it through the adjacent lot, or is the entrance and exit on your lot?
The owners to the west are the ones that run the trucking, parking, and all the entrances are on their property, which is, you can see that there's an opening to the frontage road on Palatine. That's where all the trucks come in and
Okay.
leave.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Ralph, the exit on the south there, just outside of the red dash line, there is an easement agreement for ingress and egress with the airport on that portion of it.
That is correct. We don't use it though.
Other comments or discussion? Okay, then if there is none, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion, please, to close the public hearing on application number ZBA 19-02SU.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Voice vote, please. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I'd like a motion, please, to receive into the public record the staff review of compliance of this application with the zoning standards as presented by staff this evening, and to make these standards a part of the official record for the application.
I'll make the
motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Voice vote, please. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I'm assuming the additional documents received are already part of the public record?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then let's proceed here to make a motion for the city council to approve the application in front of us this evening, which is a application for a special use to allow a parking lot and decks, municipal or private, in the B4 Office Industrial District, Section 5-7-6C of the City of Prospect Heights zoning code for semi-truck parking.
So moved.
Second?
Jen, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Kempa.
Aye.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Aye.
Commissioner Tamman.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon.
Aye.
Commissioner Sayward.
Aye.
And Chairman Dash.
Aye.
Thank you.
So next up, Stan, this will go in for the city council.
February 11th will be the first reading.
Okay. Then on to our final case of new business this evening. So let's start here. Let's see, the next case of new business is ZBA 19-03, TA/SU, and the applicant is Connor Commercial Real Estate LLC, addressed at 25 to 35 Piper Lane, Prospect Heights, Illinois, 60070. And the applicant, there are two requests this evening. The first, they're seeking a text amendment to add warehouse use as a permitted special use. And the second item seeking approval this evening would be a special use request to allow the construction of a 150,000 square foot warehouse industrial building in the B4 Office and Industrial District, Section 5-7-6C of the City of Prospect Heights zoning code. So let's go ahead.
Before we open this up, or
Okay.
before we can move forward with this, at the same time, there will be some cross testimony, which would also impact the next case, which is ZBA 1904, which is not a public hearing, but is a public meeting for the subdivision engineering and appearance review. So we could, if it's the commission's desire, to combine them and then have separate votes at the end of the hearing, because they all will work together. But one is, the first ones require a public hearing, the other ones are a public meeting under our code structure. So that would be the, whatever desire of the, you want to combine them. we can.
Okay, so this one's not a public hearing.
Correct.
Okay.
Should have said
That's
public
okay.
meeting.
That's okay. All right, so unless there's anyone in the commission that's opposed, I agree with Director Peterson. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing, but we'll use that venue to discuss these two requests. And then should I just go ahead and read the request as part of that? So then the request for the other case Dan referenced, which would be ZBA 19-04, PC for subdivision preliminary engineering and appearance review. So basically, again, the applicant is seeking the following approvals for a proposed 150,000 square foot new industrial building development on the 10 acres at the subject property. And again, that would include preliminary plat of subdivision, preliminary engineering, and appearance review. So let's go ahead and open the public hearing, please. A motion to open the public hearing on case number ZBA 19-03 TA-SU.
So moved.
Second?
Voice vote, please. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so then I can go ahead and swear everyone in at the same time. If you'll be presenting or speaking on this case this evening, you can stand up. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear that the testimony you'll be giving this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you. Okay, so Director Peterson?
Excuse me. The applicants, Connor Commercial, are the contract purchasers of the property. They've been working with the city and staff for many months and have come forward. The text amendment before us is, even though the lot before is an industrial office district, the code was silent on warehouse uses as an approved use in the district. So therefore, the applicants are looking at adding a warehouse. There's already a definition for that, so what we'd be doing is adding warehouses under the permitted section of the code, which is the 5-7-6C as a permitted special use. Then after, as that gets recommended for approval, then the applicant will be seeking that use. Then we can get into the hearts of the actual development.
Okay, so,
I would have to also promise that the applicants did have volunteered and had an open house at Quincy Park with the neighbors. They went through their proposal. Weather was not a great night. There was about a dozen folks that turned out. I attended along with Alderman Dolick, and we did have conversations with the residents. The project was well received, and I'll let the applicants talk a little bit more about the comments they heard at that open house. So they did go out of their way to explain what they will be as a new neighbor.
great.
Thank you.
Okay, so who's presenting this evening then?
Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Quigley. I'm with Connor Commercial, the developer of this project. And what we have here, you can see a site plan off to my left, is a 10-acre site currently owned by the city of Prospect Heights. And it's 25 and 35 Hyper Court, just east of Wolf Road. And so this is a Class A industrial building. Office and warehouse is the intended use. The building is going to be built on speculation. We don't have any tenants lined up. We're talking to a few folks. We've got a company called Payne Wetzel that's marketing it for us. And so their job is to generate interest from users. And we've got some pretty strong interest so far from folks who are already in Prospect Heights and want to stay here and expand. And so a little bit about the building. It's, again, 150,000 square feet. It's about 37 feet tall, 32 clear on the inside. The materials are a 7-inch concrete floor. The wall panels are made of precast concrete, insulated precast concrete. You've got a metal deck with a rubber roof over it. It's considered Class A. And so this is a very expensive building, and the rents are pretty expensive. But the good news is we've got pretty strong interest from customers already. This is not a high throughput building. There's not a lot of trucks that are going to come and go every day. The car traffic is separated from the truck traffic. We're going to have car traffic in front, where the office is going to be located, and trucks are going to go to the rear of the building through one entry on the east side of the property. That's the overview. We have a contract to purchase the property, and we expect to close in March, start construction immediately, deliver by year end.
Great.
Yeah, any users that we engage with, we'll bring to Prospect Heights to meet with, and you can understand exactly who we're going to lease the building to.
Because Dan, I believe that the end user would need a business license?
Depending on their use, but all of them would be evaluated to make sure that the actual use is compliant with the city standards.
Great, okay. Well, Brian, there was certainly a lot of information in your very complete package.
Thank you.
So I expect that there will be some questions from the commissioners, so.
Okay, I brought my
why don't-
engineer.
Yep.
So,
So why don't we open it up, well, I guess first, it doesn't appear that there's anyone here from the public this evening to speak, is that correct? Okay. It's part of the protocol.
Okay with that.
So let's go ahead and start taking questions from the commissioners, and we'll see where that leads us, Brian.
Okay.
Okay.
So what were some of the comments from the residents?
You know, their concern really was noise and light spillover onto their property. And so Bree, the property manager, has spent a lot of time with her. And so what we proposed was to have a berm built between that property and ours. And on top of the berm, a solid wood fence. And on either side of the solid wood fence, we would heavily landscape both sides. And so from the street level, looking into our property from the condominium association, you wouldn't be able to see any activity in the truck court. Top of the building and light spillover, we are bringing lights down and shrouding the lights so that there is no light spillover. We did a photometric study of the site. And so noise and light pollution were their main concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioners?
I have a couple of questions for Dan, actually. My understanding is that there is no height limit in this area. Does the airport regulate the height in this area?
The zoning code does not have a height restriction. The FAA and another federal code restricts heights to 70 feet, and this project will have to seek approval from the FAA and go through their application process, but at the 37 to 42 feet elevation on that site, it's actually shorter than a couple of the other buildings along Hyper. We do not foresee any issue with the FAA.
And one other question for you, Dan. We're asking, they're asking for approval of for the term or the use of a warehouse, but in most of the drawings, it's considered an industrial building. Is there any kind of conflict where the drawings are showing it as an industrial building and we're actually being asked to approve a warehouse facility?
I don't believe there's a conflict because the building could be used for industrial purposes. However, it was asked because of the expanding potential for an end user who does warehousing. I think that was the basis for the request. The type of construction, the methods of construction style of building is conducive to both industrial and warehousing, open floor plans, loading docks, the ability to have employees manufacture or have equipment, and also could be distribution, storage, warehousing type use. I think what it does is it allows the contract purchaser some flexibility in marketing.
So
It's hard to look at it. We want to be cast as wide a net as possible to potential
Sure.
users. And
So
we don't limit ourselves. Sorry.
if we're approving it tonight based on the idea that it's going to be a warehouse and then it comes in later on as an industrial building, then it would have to be reviewed as under all of the industrial use criteria at that point, correct?
The B3, the industrial standards, the specific standards that are listed in the B3 apply to B4. So any user that comes in would have to meet those standards anyway.
Okay.
So that's part of our tenant evaluation. So I believe we're covered on that point.
Great, thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this was the proposed arena site originally, correct?
Correct. This is the last remnant parcel of approximately 25 acres that the city had purchased at one time. Sterry Trucking, the previous applicant tonight, bought a portion. The Chicago Executive Airport bought quite a bit of land, and then we had this parcel that we've been marketing for a little over 2 years now, and trying to get back on the tax rolls, not as part of city property.
Well, I think the building looks absolutely spectacular. And I would, as a resident, I would rather have that in my backyard, so I say, than to have an arena and lots of cars and, you know, sporting events on weekends and middle of the night, you know, as far as during the week. And I think it's gonna be a great improvement for Prospect Heights, and hopefully it will generate us some tax money.
Thank you. So Dan, when staff issued their report, you suggested or recommended conditions in regards to the photometric lighting plan. Is that plan in compliance with city requirements at this point, or is that still in the works?
No, after the staff evaluation, I notified Connor, and Connor did submit a revised photometric that did make it into your packet. However, I did not hit, it was the same day as this one out, so I did not correct staff report. However, the revised photometrics fully comply with the city standards. So there are no variations that will be required.
Okay, and then did the applicant address the garbage storage plan?
No, we did not get into that question, and it's something that would be open for discussion or asking right now. Because typically, in a commercial use, all garbage service has to be within a corral. As you notice by the site plan, there's no corral, so therefore, the question that needs to be begged, will the user be storing inside, or how is their waste service plan to be addressed? And we did not have that discussion between staff and the Connor team.
So would that be something we'd look to Mr. Connor for, or would that be ultimately addressed by an end user?
We could ask the question here, it could probably be stated in their leases with someone how they address to handle it and then come back, or we can handle it with the end user. The problem is if the end user wants it outside, it's not shown on the site plan, then we'd have to go through the normal permitting process if there's sufficient space to put it. As you can see, there's a lot of landscaping being proposed in the back. There could be some places where it could be put, but again, that was an unanswered question from the initial review.
I did think you could probably take up a truck stall for a dumpster location if you need to.
Okay. There are different options, however, it was just a minute. The reason I raised it is that was the one item in the code evaluation that was not covered.
Okay, so if there's no concerns from the commissioners, which there may be, we wouldn't have to approve it with a condition by any means?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Dan, what about mechanical equipment screening as well?
The engineer could explain how they plan to handle that.
Rooftop, is that what you mean, rooftop?
Right.
Got it. Well, we are going to screen it, and so I don't think, Brian, you're getting into that, there's two Brians here, but we will screen the rooftop equipment. Material, are you looking for specifics?
Well, so it's not shown on any of your elevations, obviously, so I don't know if it's going to be something similar in building material to what the building itself is, or if it has to be a certain opaque standard, if Dan has some input on that, or...
How high is your parapet?
Do we need to swear him in now? Right, so you'll have to come up here and speak too, because we have the microphone in place. So do you swear that the testimony you will give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And if you could just please state your name and address for the
Yeah,
record?
Ben Harris with Conrad Commercial at 9500 West Bryn Mawr.
What's your first name?
Ben Harris.
Ben, thank you,
Yeah.
Ben.
So the parapet wall, I believe, is about, Brian, about 7 or so feet above the roof line, right? So you'll have your HVAC units on the roof, and that the parapet wall will cover the HVAC units by a couple of feet. So you won't see the mechanical at all on the street, so it'll be fully covered.
Okay.
Other questions this evening for the presenters.
I think for the public record, I know, Brian, you touched on it briefly, but if we go back to the site plan, if you could more clearly delineate how the traffic pattern should work, so it's clearly shown as part of the public record, please.
If you do have, so the traffic will come typically, well, it'll come from the west. It'll come from Wolf Road. So what I foresee and what our traffic study showed is that traffic will come from 294 in the east down Palatine Road and take a left on Wolf and then take a left on Piper Court and then enter our site on the east side of our site, adjacent to the Prospect Heights municipal yard. And so that's the one point of ingress and egress for the trucks onto our site. Truck traffic is really what you're concerned with. So when trucks exit, they'll be able to come out the same way onto Piper Court, take a left going west, and then go north on Pinecrest to Palatine, and then take a right on the Palatine back to 294. That's likely where most traffic is going to go. There is a no truck sign on Piper as it bends to the south there for the first turn. So we'll need to remove that sign and allow trucks to continue for another 100 feet on Piper.
Okay.
I have a question for Director Peterson. I noticed in the village engineer's review comments that he made no mention of the review of traffic impact study. Was that reviewed? Is that approved by the engineer, or is that still pending comments?
He's just got it, the initial review went out for sites. He didn't get a copy of the traffic review until later. However, we did discuss it, I've read it, and his preliminary discussion is that it does not pose a problem. It's actually in conformance with the Go 2040 plan in terms of traffic density and stuff by, as listed by the Metropolitan Planning Commission is, their 2040 plan. There is a slight increase in wait times at Wolf Road in the afternoon rush, but the KLOA, the traffic engineer, indicated that that is in conformance with the engineered plans for Wolf Road and the traffic congestion. So there's a slight increase in times and it's mainly for the left-hand turn out of Piper Lane onto southbound Wolf Road is where that movement tends to get a higher or a lower grade because of the increased time, but it's still within the long-term engineer guidelines.
Is that section, I know in Wheeling, for example, IDOT is going through and upgrading Wolf Road. Is this also a section of Wolf Road that is scheduled for upgrading by the state? Is that a state route through here?
That is at that point. However, we have not had any discussions with the southbound extension of that improvement. And there's been no discussion, Palatine Road this summer will be resurfaced by IDOT that stretch from basically Palatine to Milwaukee, and there was no discussion of them coming onto Wolf Road and the Prospect Heights side.
Are there improvements that are going to need to be done to Piper Lane for the weight limits? Since, as you mentioned, there's the no truck sign there for, obviously, for the weight limits. So if instead of just moving it to a different location, are there improvements that are going to be needed to be made to Piper Lane?
The only changes that we see, because the road was reconstructed to meet the weight of the trucks. However, because there was no viable access going east to get to Milwaukee, so without going down Apple Drive and further east, that the city had put a stop on truck traffic going east of the S curve. So they stopped everything at the west side of the S curve. So we would be, the asphalt is fine, the curving is fine over there. It's just the relocation of the signage to prohibit movement east of the S-curve.
Director Peterson, have you seen, or has anyone seen auto turn exhibits for the movements in and out of the site? I'm particularly concerned about the S-curve, two trucks making opposite directions through that turn. I'm concerned that the northern bend doesn't have a sufficient radius to pass two vehicles past each other.
That is a question that maybe their engineers can address.
This is Brian Johnson with Pinnacle Engineering Group. That was part of the comments we received from the village engineer, was to provide not only on-site auto turn exhibits, but we'll also provide auto turn exhibits for Piper Lane as well. So we'll go ahead and model that, so you'll be able to see how the truck turning movements that occur, and if there's any changes warranted at that corner, we'll go ahead and make those improvements as well.
Mr. Johnson, I don't know if you had any involvement in the traffic study. Is there anybody here that could speak to the traffic distribution? I had some concerns over the distribution created by the, shown in the exhibit that's created by the site.
I did not put the traffic study together, so, I mean, I can help try to address it if.
My concern was that the study seems to indicate that, roughly half of the traffic is going to be coming down Apple Drive, and I think you just stated, sir, that estimated directional distribution, 55% and 45% on Apple Drive. I would think, seem to... Right. So that kind of jumped out at me as I was reviewing the information. I think that probably needs a little more scrutiny.
Brian, were you talking truck activity or pedestrian?
Oh, truck activity, truck activity.
Okay, I think that's the clarification.
Okay. Well, I'm still concerned that, pedestrian vehicles, 55%, if you think of the major movements, it's Palatine Road, east and west, those people are all gonna come to Wolf. You got Wolf Road, north and south, that's all gonna come off of Wolf. Southbound Milwaukee is gonna come to Wolf. It's really only northbound Milwaukee that would, the southern leg of Milwaukee that would potentially use Apple Drive in my estimation. So, I think that traffic distribution looks like it could use a reconsideration.
Yeah,
So.
I think cars will come and go on Wolf, unless the folks live there who are working in the building.
I agree, and then, when you make if you guys, if between the applicant and staff, they feel like that directional, or the directional distribution requires updating. My concern then is that the wait time on Wolf is already doubled based on the estimated traffic distribution. By adding another 30, 40, 50% of your traffic, what's the impact then? And then does that still meet the standards for, as Director Peterson described earlier?
So what, are you looking for additional clarification onto the traffic distribution then? Is that what you?
Yes, and, I'd be interested in the city engineer's input on that as well.
Okay.
It sounds like he may not have had an opportunity to fully vet this prior to the application, so.
So I guess thank you, Bruce, I appreciate that. But, I guess my question would be, since we're looking this evening to grant preliminary plan and plat approvals, preliminary engineering, is this something that could be further addressed at final?
Yes, it can. Engineer Perez did do a preliminary report saying that it was fine for moving forward, that we could work out some details related to the S-curve, turn radiuses, and a few of the others, and this could be added as one of those other items that we could do before final engineering is approved.
So then, this evening, we could approve it with the condition that during final engineering review, the traffic impact study be further reviewed.
And verified.
Yeah, I don't have a concern with that myself. My only concern is approving the use and then come to find later that in that westbound leg of Piper onto southbound Wolf warrants additional, you know, at what point does it warrant a signal? We've already doubled the wait time via what's in the report here. Any changes to that distribution are gonna only extend that. And at what point does that meet the criteria that it's no longer a functional intersection? And at that point, would we have approved something that is not functional?
Understood.
So Commissioner Mellon, do you feel that your concerns are impactful enough where we would need more information, or?
You know, I don't
Would you
think
feel comfortable?
for Plan Commission personally, but I think that needs to probably be readdressed at City Council.
Prior to City Council?
That would be my opinion. I don't know if that's the proper way to handle that, Director. But.
What we could do is, their engineer, I can get information to our engineer and try and come up with a plan of action in a time frame to address that, so that it's prepared, so when we go to council in a couple of weeks, they know what it is, because I'm not sure if we can get that level of detail, Commissioner, in a 2-week time.
Sure.
But if we could put together some benchmarks of when to expect that, I think that, and then they could be prepared to speak to this issue at council and when we go to the final engineering approval.
And so then, would that also apply to the question of turning radiuses on Piper Lane? That it would be conditional approval based on resolution of that issue as well?
Yeah, Engineer Perez did state that he was fine with the plans as they were presented. However, there were questions that were still open. It was not, the questions and concerns were not enough to delay and could be worked through the permitting process. You know, there's still going to be MWRD permitting, there's going to be all other traffic engineering things that need to be, or other site engineering that have to be addressed. Illinois American Water, sewer issues, there's going to be the expansion of the detention ponds and things, but preliminarily, it meets the city's standards. However, it does still have to go through those other agency reviews and approvals. So I believe Engineer Perez's position was, yes, there are some concerns with a few items on here. However, during the process of that permitting process, should be able to get those designs corrected.
You good, Commissioner
I
Mellon?
have nothing else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so again, just make sure, so have we concluded all discussion in regards to the proposed text amendment, the proposed special use permit, and then the appearance review? We're covering all three of those. Okay, so if there are no additional comments in regards to all of those items, then I would suggest that we go ahead and close the public hearing. So I'd like a motion, please, to close the public hearing on case number ZBA 19-03.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay. Voice vote, please. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, then, for this case, I'd like a motion, please, to receive into the public record the staff review of compliance of this application with the zoning standards as presented by staff this evening, and to make these standards a part of the official record for the application. Motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Voice vote, please. Those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, and then I'm under the impression that the new information we received today is already incorporated into the
Yes.
evidence, okay, great. Okay, so then we'll do this in separate steps. We'll start first, we'll do
Text them.
three, right, we're gonna do three separate motions that will go before the city council. So the first motion would be to recommend that the city council approve the text amendment to add warehouse use as a permitted special use. A motion, please?
I'll make
Also
the motion.
move.
I'll second.
Okay, Jen, if you would please, roll call? vote.
Commissioner Kempa.
Aye.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Aye.
Commissioner Tamman.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon.
Aye.
Commissioner Sayward.
Aye.
Chairman Dash.
Aye. Okay, now I'd like, please, a motion to recommend to the city council that they approve a special use request to allow the construction of a 150,000 square foot warehouse industrial building in the B4 Office Industrial District, Section 5-7-6C of the City of Prospect Heights zoning code.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Jen, if you would roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Kempa.
Aye.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Aye.
Commissioner Tamman.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon.
Aye.
Commissioner Sayward.
Aye.
Chairman Dash.
Aye. Okay, and then, moving on, well, the other case,
That would end, 1903.
correct. So, we can go straight into making the motion, correct? Right, so now, in regards to case number ZBA 19-04, I'd like a motion, please, to recommend to the city council the approvals for a proposed 150,000 square foot new industrial building development on the 10 acres at the subject property, which would include the preliminary plat of subdivision, preliminary engineering, and appearance review as presented this evening.
Would that be conditional on, were there any conditions imposed on that?
I would, for the record, put that the condition that would have to comply and verify all the engineering requirements as stated tonight.
Yeah, so we'll add that to the approval as a condition. Thank you, Bruce. So, a motion, please, to approve that with the condition?
Before we make that motion, do we need to add a condition about screening the garbage as well?
I think if everybody's comfortable with it being handled as a internal, that when an applicant comes and whoever's the leaseholder, if they would need it outside, will get a permit, it would be a, brick, I'm sure brick type structure, or they could come through the normal permitting process at that time, or, they could choose to do internal garbage.
Yep.
I just raised it because it hadn't been talked about earlier, so. We're, from a staff perspective, we're comfortable with either way, it's just wanted to, because it didn't show up on any design.
Okay, then we'll make the motion as stated with the first condition. So if we want to, Jen, or a motion, please, to make that recommendation to city council?
Also move.
I'll second.
Okay, Jen, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Kempa.
Aye.
Commissioner DeGraff.
Aye.
Commissioner Tamman.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon.
Aye.
Commissioner Sayward. Chairman Dash.
Aye. So yeah, we thank you this evening. It was a very complete package. We wish you the best of luck as you market this to hopefully a new end user within the city.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like Dan will keep you posted, but you'll be appearing in front of the city council.
The hope, guys, if I can get this all written up, is February 11th.
Okay. So next on the agenda,
Print the agenda.
I've asked Commissioner Peterson to start updating us on some of the cases that have been before us. So it looks like this evening we've got updates on the car wash, the Thornton's gas station, and then Lollipop Chicken Wings, so.
All right, we've been in communications with the folks from the car wash, Mr. Kim. We did receive their applications yesterday, so they're moving forward. They did close on the property prior to the end of the year, and they were under review now. So they're on target to start construction this spring. Thornton's, you've probably been wondering, there's been a delay since the buildings were put down. Part of that had to do with IDOT bonding requirements and permitting. I spoke with them this week, and they're on target to start towards the end of February, first part of March, with a projected completion date by August 1st. So they're gonna fast track that. Lollipop Chicken Wings, that was before us early last year. The project fell through because of some financing and financial agreements between the franchisees and the respective, the franchise, to get that done. So that is now closed, is not brought forward through. I spoke, just so you know, I spoke with another folks that are looking at the same space for a Korean takeout, no liquor, no gaming. So we'll see if that comes forward. But as it sits right now, we do not have a February meeting.
Okay.
Where was the location of that one?
That was at the Milwaukee Plaza, the old vacant Mandarin Gardens. All the kitchen equipment, everything's still there, it's just such a large size that it's not attractive to some of the smaller startup, takeout, smaller folks, especially ones that don't want to do a bar. So, so at this point in time, this is where we're at with.
What about the proposed sit-down restaurant in the strip mall on 83 north of Palatine?
The Minta, the
Minta?
restaurant with the possible hookah. We've been working like a couple days a week, talking with them. It looks like they're gonna come forward with just the restaurant proposal. The more we get into this, the Illinois Smoke-Free Act is very restrictive and very clear that it probably will not be permitted to have liquor sales or food service with the smoking, because hookah is still classified as a form of smoking under the definition of the state law. So timing of when we'll see a building permit application, not 100% sure, but we're talking with them once or twice a week, trying to get through these hurdles.
Great.
How is the restaurant coming on the corner of Camp McDonald and 83?
Got preliminary architectural drawings today. Sent them back and told them to submit a full application, because I don't want to spend a ton of time doing multiple reviews on that. So, I should hear back from them tomorrow.
Is that the pizza and soup by
Yeah.
Rockies?
Yep, Rockies, George. Yeah, what he sent today looks good, but they were, it was a small computer printout, 8.5 by 11. Told, please give me a stamped architectural set of plans to work with, and so we'll see that. So we're just plugging away.
Did you start doing anything there? I see the windows are all.
Oh, he covered the windows because he's received a bunch of equipment. I took a walk through there at the end of last week, so he's started to get some of his kitchen equipment, because that space had absolutely nothing. It was Dom IT, and then it was a pop-up sports memorabilia after the Cup World Series, and a couple of other uses. So, that's pretty much where we're at.
Okay, looks like we have a communication this evening.
Yes, it's that time of year. You will be receiving an email from either Cook County or from Karen Schulteis about your financial economic disclosure. Please complete that before May 1, because after that, the county charges you $15 if you don't get it in, and then that can compound.
It's all done electronically.
Yeah, it's really easy to do if anybody needs help, especially first timers. I think all of you did it last year, so it shouldn't be an issue. It's just that it's one of those ones that's easily forgot about, and then the county says we want to check the $15 before we'll let you do it, and then this is a high-paying job here, folks. You do a great job with it, so.
You don't want to see you give up your money to the county.
Okay,
So no meeting next month.
okay. So any other communications from any of the commissioners? Okay, then, with no further business, do I hear a motion, please, to adjourn the January 24th, 2019 Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals meeting?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.